This trip was going to be my first experience with a tea ceremony. I had recently been reading ways to decrease the nausea associated with the experience, and that's where I came across the tea preparation methods. I had learned that it's not as rough on you with the nausea if you don't have all that mushroom material in your stomach and you're just able to get the chemicals out of the mushrooms by steeping them in a tea. And the recipe that I came across, I think is pretty solid. In fact, it's actually the method that I use today, the same recipe. And the only thing that I really change is if I want to change like a different flavor of tea. I choose to steep the mushroom tea mixture for 20 minutes in two different batches. The first one is just tea and the mushrooms, and then the second time I put honey for a little bit of sweetness and ginger to help with the nausea, and just a little bit of lemon juice to taste. And I know lemon juice can make the effect stronger with a lemon tech method, but I'm not sure if the same applies with the mushroom tea. My choice for flavor this time was Lipton Peach Mango flavor because I was wanting a pretty strong flavor to mask the taste of the mushrooms, not knowing that I would really only taste the ginger the most. This trip was also going to be another 4 or 5 dried grams. And I was also curious about being outside and how the connectivity with nature would make the trip be like. In preparing the setting, I had 2 outdoor lounge chairs in my backyard looking out into my tree line. It was a very bright, sunny evening. It might have been afternoon, evening time. And I had my mug of tea, a trip blanket just in case I got the chills, and a water to drink. I also had a music playlist with me and my speaker just to add to the experience. My wife was going to be my trip sitter again, and she just had a few things to keep her busy while I journeyed. The trip started with me slowly sipping the tea because I wanted my come up to be really smooth. And once I finished the cup, I just sat back and looked around and waited to see what it was going to be like and if I actually made the tea correctly. At first, I thought it really wasn't working because it took quite a while for me to actually notice any effects. But then I started to notice the changes subtly coming on. I first noticed how the green of the trees and the grass, it became more saturated, kind of like someone was turning a dial to make the colors more vibrant. That was accompanied by the familiar mushroom nerves, the familiar sensation of doing something unknown or exciting, and in this case, both. As my music playlist continued, the chills really started to creep up on me, and my wife was concerned because it wasn't remotely cold out. There was a slight breeze, but the temperature was definitely warm. And then me, I was only concerned with how crazy I looked being outside on a warm day with a blanket. 3 songs played that I feel might have influenced the direction of my trip was Jefferson Airplane, White Rabbit. That started my trip being positive with positive vibes throughout. The other 2 songs being Gorillaz, Kids with Guns, and then Kid Cudi's Satellite Flight. When I was listening to Gorillaz, Kids with Guns, I saw what I would consider hyperdimensional shadow people. I saw 2 taller figures, like adult shadows, with one smaller childlike figure, and they were hunched down looking at me like they were intrigued with what they were seeing. Kind of like they shouldn't be able to see me, would they understand what it meant to be able to? Like I said, their energy was intrigued, and I wish I would have stayed outside to experience this more. But being new to mushrooms, sometimes my first encounters with these entities is quite overwhelming. And it honestly freaked me out a bit when I closed my eyes and the image of my backyard and these people, it didn't go away. It was like still as crisp as if I had my eyes open. I didn't really want to get myself in a paranoid kind of mindset, so we kind of just grabbed everything together. And when I went inside, I was barefoot, so I had to walk across my backyard. And I can't explain how extremely soft the grass felt on my feet. As I was walking through my backyard, the body load was very intense. And I think I probably made a trip to the bathroom just to make sure I didn't have to use the restroom before I laid down. When I laid down, this is where the song Satellite Flight by Kid Cudi comes in. In the song, it says, and the story goes, a young man will come and save the universe from the forces of evil. And I think my mind kind of latched onto that thought because I began to travel what I would call hyperspatially. Best way I can describe it is that my mind feels like it's actually an object or a vehicle of some sort, and these visions that I'm having, they're being projected in this three-dimensional space that feels like it's a tunnel coming out of my head, and that my mind is traveling through that space outside my head. The direction of this tunnel felt like it was coming out of the top of my head at an angle upwards. And I was traveling so fast when I eventually came to this meeting point, it was very far away. And then I felt like I came in contact with two people. It wasn't really like I was looking at a picture of someone, like I was seeing visuals. It was more like I was reading the energy they were projecting, and then my mind was creating their essence in my mind in a vague physical form. The vibe that I was getting from these two was a very heavy friend vibe, also mixed with an older brother vibe. And it felt like we had this sense of camaraderie. And then they communicated to me a message that there was a war going on, an interdimensional war, and that me living my life, I'm doing my part on this side of reality, and that everyone that's alive, them living, they play their own part, and that when the time comes, that I will join them again to do my part, almost like in their reality or their world, and that they were just really just reassuring me that I was doing what needed to be done. And I know I'm forgetting some things because it's impossible or damn near impossible to bring back most of anything that goes on during the psychedelic experience. I also want to add that when I feel like I'm communicating with these different entities, there's this visceral feeling of truth and clarity from the responses that I get from them. I don't know, it really just opens up my eyes to really just how far technology and communications can go. One of the last things that I remember from this trip was during the come down, my wife took me to the gas station because I think we were going to go on a drive or get something to eat. But I remember looking up at the sky and seeing the clouds morphing, kind of in a disappearing, reappearing kind of way, like really fast.